I drove 6 hours through a snowstorm to make it home for Christmas Eve. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white as the wipers fought against the heavy flakes piling on my windshield. I had canceled an important meeting, declined a dinner invitation from colleagues, and packed my car with expensive gifts for everyone. When I finally pulled into the driveway, I saw warm light glowing through the windows. The Christmas tree sparkled in the living room. I could smell ham cooking from outside. I grabbed the bags and walked in, already smiling. Then I saw her, a stranger sitting in my seat, the seat next to Mom, my seat. Mom turned and said, "This is Sharon, our neighbor. She's alone this year. We figured you'd understand." Then she pointed toward the kitchen. "You can sit in there, honey. You'll be fine." I looked around. My brother Bradley avoided my eyes. My sister Courtney pretended to check her phone. Sharon looked at me with pity mixed with something else, satisfaction maybe. And right then, standing in the doorway with snow melting off my coat, I realized I wasn't part of this family anymore. I was just the ATM they called when they needed something. I stood there for what felt like an hour, but was probably only 10 seconds. My heart pounded in my chest. The bags of gifts suddenly felt impossibly heavy in my hands. I could hear laughter from the dining room where everyone had gathered. Through the doorway, I saw the table set beautifully with Mom's good china, the candles flickering, the centerpiece I had sent last week positioned perfectly. Everything looked magazine perfect, except there was no place for me. Mom was already walking back toward the dining room, her attention fully on Sharon now. Sharon wore a cream-colored sweater and had her hair done up nice. She looked comfortable, like she belonged. Bradley was playing with his 7-year-old son near the tree, showing him an ornament. His wife Amanda sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Courtney was in the kitchen doorway, watching me with narrowed eyes. I forced my face into something resembling a smile. "You know what? You're right. I'll be fine." I set the bags down by the door and walked toward the kitchen, but instead of going in, I grabbed my coat from the hook. My fingers trembled as I pulled it on. The zipper stuck halfway and I had to yank it twice before it moved. "Where are you going?" Mom called from the dining room. Her voice had that edge of annoyance, like I was being difficult. "I just remembered something. I'll be back." It wasn't a lie. I had just remembered something important. I remembered that I mattered, that I deserved better than being shoved into a kitchen like an afterthought. The cold air hit my face as I stepped outside. The snow had gotten heavier. My car was already covered again. I brushed off the driver's side door and got in, locking it immediately. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel. Through the front window of the house, I could see everyone gathered around the table now. Sharon sat in my spot. Mom was pouring wine. Bradley was cutting the ham. Courtney was passing plates. They looked like a perfect family. A complete family. A family that didn't need me. My phone buzzed. A text from Courtney. "Wow, can't handle being overlooked, huh? So dramatic." I stared at those words. Read them 3 times. The anger that had been simmering in my chest suddenly erupted into something cold and calculated. My thumbs moved before my brain could catch up. I opened my banking app. The screen glowed blue in the darkness of the car. I navigated to recurring payments. There it was. Mortgage assistance for Patricia and Richard Thompson. $300. Every single month. For the past 24 months. I clicked freeze payment. A confirmation box popped up. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure." Next was the streaming services. I was the account holder for Netflix, Hulu, and Disney+. The family plan. Everyone used my login. I went into each app. Canceled subscription. Canceled subscription. Canceled subscription. 3 clicks. 3 confirmations. Done. I pulled up Venmo. The automatic payment for Courtney's daughter's dance classes. $65 every month. Canceled. The loan repayment schedule I had set up with Bradley, expecting him to pay back the $10,000 I had lent him for his failed food truck business. I stopped the reminder notifications. If he wasn't going to pay anyway, I wasn't going to chase him. My phone started buzzing. Notifications rolling in. Netflix has been canceled. Hulu has been canceled. Disney Plus has been canceled. I turned the sound off and started the engine. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw Bradley's face appear in the window. He was holding his phone, looking confused. I shifted into drive and left. The hotel was 20 miles away. I chose one with a bar attached because I figured I might need a drink later. The woman at the front desk was young, maybe 22, with a Santa hat perched on her head. She smiled at me with genuine warmth. "Merry Christmas Eve. Just you tonight?" "Just me." She handed me the key card. "Room 214, second floor. Elevators to your right. If you need anything, just call down." "Thank you." The room was small but clean. A queen bed with a floral comforter, a TV mounted on the wall, a desk with a lamp, a bathroom with tiny bottles of shampoo. I sat on the edge of the bed and finally let myself breathe. My phone was vibrating nonstop now. I picked it up and looked at the screen. 37 missed calls, dozens of texts. 7:15 p.m. Courtney. "Netflix just stopped working. Did you do something?" 7:32 p.m. Bradley. "Hey, Disney Plus is down. What's going on?" 8:05 p.m. Mom. "Jacqueline, please call me. We need to talk about this." 8:47 p.m. Courtney. "Are you serious right now? You canceled everything because of a seat?" 9:20 p.m. Bradley. "This is so childish. We're family. You don't punish family like this." 9:55 p.m. Mom. "Your father is very upset. How could you do this on Christmas Eve?" I set the phone face down on the nightstand, ordered room service, a burger and fries. Comfort food. When it arrived, I ate slowly, methodically, trying not to think about what I'd just done, trying not to feel guilty. But the guilt was there anyway, creeping in around the edges. Maybe I had overreacted. Maybe I should have just sucked it up and sat in the kitchen. Maybe I was being petty. Then my phone buzzed again. 10:05 p.m. A text from Courtney. "Fine. You want to know the truth? Mom and Dad have been planning to cut you out of the will for months. They think you're too proud, too independent. They said Sharon would be a better daughter than you ever were. Sharon visits every week. Sharon helps with groceries. What do? Send money like we're some charity case? You're not better than us just because you moved to the city and got some fancy job." I read it 3 times, then 4, then 5. Cut me out of the will, planning it for months. Sharon would be a better daughter. Another text came through, this one from Bradley. "Courtney's right. You've always acted like you're doing us a favor. Well, guess what? We don't need you anymore. Sharon's moving into the guest house next month. She'll be there for Mom and Dad when they need someone. Not just money. Actual presence." My hands went numb. Sharon was moving into the guest house that Dad had built 10 years ago, that I had helped pay for. The guest house where I used to stay when I visited before I got tired of feeling like a visitor in my own family home. I opened my laptop with shaking fingers, logged into the family shared documents. We had a folder there for important paperwork. Birth certificates, insurance policies, medical records, and there, updated 3 weeks ago, a file labeled Estate Planning Draft November 2024. I clicked it open. The words blurred at first, then came into sharp focus. "We hereby remove Jacqueline Marie Thompson from all inheritance and estate distribution. Primary beneficiaries: Bradley James Thompson, Courtney Ann Thompson, and Sharon Louise Miller, family friend and caretaker." The date at the bottom, November 28th, 3 weeks before Christmas. The lawyer's signature was already there. This wasn't a draft, this was done. I sat in that hotel room staring at the computer screen until my eyes burned. The document was 12 pages long, detailed, thorough, every asset listed: the house, the savings accounts, Dad's life insurance policy, Mom's jewelry, the antique furniture, the car. Even the family photos and heirlooms had been cataloged and assigned. Bradley got the house. Courtney got the savings and jewelry. Sharon got the guest house and a cash payout of $50,000 for her service as primary caretaker. I got nothing, not even a mention except in the opening paragraph where my name was specifically removed from any and all claims to the estate. There were notes in the margins. Mom's handwriting. I recognized it immediately. Her looping cursive that she'd taught me when I was 7. Next to my name, she had written, "Has made it clear through her absence and attitude that she does not value family. Has chosen career over connection. Does not need or want our modest estate." I closed the laptop because I couldn't look at it anymore. My chest felt tight, like someone was sitting on it. I walked to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face, looked at myself in the mirror. 32 years old. Dark circles under my eyes from the drive. Hair still damp from the snow. I looked tired. I looked sad. I looked exactly like someone who had just discovered her family had been planning to erase her. My phone rang. Dad this time. I stared at his name on the screen. Richard Thompson. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. He called again immediately. I declined it. A text came through. Dad, Jacqueline, this is not how we raised you. Call your mother. She's crying. I typed back without thinking. You raised me to know my worth. That's exactly what I'm doing. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then nothing. I crawled into bed fully clothed, pulled the covers up to my chin. The room was too quiet. I could hear people in the next room watching TV. Laughter from a Christmas movie, probably. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, but my brain wouldn't stop spinning. Cut out of the will. Sharon moving in. They think you're too proud. You've always acted like you're doing us a favor. I had spent $20,000 on that family in 2 years. Maybe more. The mortgage help, the streaming services, the loan to Bradley, Courtney's daughter's dance classes. Not to mention the gifts. The plane tickets I'd bought Mom and Dad to visit their friends in Florida last summer. The new refrigerator when theirs broke in March. The car repairs for Bradley when his transmission gave out. I hadn't kept a running total, but if I really added it up, it was probably closer to $30,000. And I had done it because I loved them. Because family helps family. Because that's what you do when you have more than enough and the people you care about are struggling. I never threw it in their faces. I never made them feel small. I just helped. Quietly, consistently. Apparently that made me proud. That made me think I was better than them. That made me someone they could erase from their lives while still cashing my checks. I must have fallen asleep eventually, because I woke up to sunlight streaming through the curtains. Christmas morning. My phone showed 63 missed calls, 82 text messages. I scrolled through them with a kind of detached curiosity. Mom, you're tearing this family apart. Courtney, hope you're proud of yourself. You ruined Christmas for everyone. The kids were crying because their shows got cut off mid-episode. Great job, Auntie. Bradley, I talked to my lawyer. What you did might be considered financial abuse. Cutting off support to elderly parents without warning. That's actionable. Amanda, Bradley's wife. I always knew you were cold, but this is next level. Your nephew asked where Aunt Jackie went, and I had to tell him you left because you didn't get your way. He's 7. He's devastated. On and on. Message after message. All of them painting me as the villain. The selfish daughter who couldn't handle not being the center of attention. The cruel sister who punished children for adult problems. The ungrateful child who abandoned her elderly parents on Christmas. None of them mentioned that I'd driven 6 hours through a snowstorm to be there. None of them mentioned the $20,000. None of them mentioned that they'd literally given my seat away to someone they barely knew and expected me to eat alone in the kitchen like help. My phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Jacqueline Thompson? Yes. This is Patricia Thompson, calling from your emergency contact list. I'm sorry to bother you on Christmas, but we're very worried about your mental state and wanted to reach out. I'm sorry, what? Your mother called our office this morning. She's concerned that you're experiencing some kind of mental health crisis. She mentioned erratic financial decisions and sudden isolation from family. She wanted to know if we could do a wellness check. This isn't my emergency contact. Who is this? The voice paused. This is the HR department at Brennan Financial Solutions. Your employer. My blood went cold. My mother had called my job, on Christmas morning, to tell them I was having a mental breakdown. I'm fine. This is a family dispute. My work is not affected. Your mother was very convincing, Miss Thompson. She said you'd been making threatening statements, and that she was afraid you might hurt yourself or others. We take these claims very seriously. I understand, but I can assure you this is retaliation, because I stopped providing financial support. I'm completely stable. I'm at work on time. My performance reviews are excellent. This is not a work issue. I'll make a note in your file, but I strongly suggest you come in after the holiday to speak with our employee assistance program. Even if this is just a family dispute, it's clearly causing stress. We want to support you. Thank you. I'll consider it. I hung up and immediately called my direct supervisor, Mr. Daniels. He answered on the 3rd ring, sounding tired. Jacqueline, I was going to call you later, I got a concerning message from HR. I know, my mother called. It's not what she made it sound like. Do you want to tell me what's actually happening? I gave him the abbreviated version. Family drama, financial boundaries, retaliation. I left out the part about the will and Sharon and the seat at the table. He didn't need all the details. Okay, well, I believe you. You're one of our best analysts. You show up, you do excellent work, you're reliable. But I do need to document this. And I'd suggest talking to HR yourself. Get ahead of this before it becomes a bigger issue. I will, thank you. After the holiday, come in Tuesday. We'll sort it out. I will. And I'm sorry this is affecting work. Not your fault. Families can be complicated. That was an understatement. I hung up and sat on the edge of the bed, my head in my hands. They weren't just cutting me out of the will, they were actively trying to destroy me, calling my job, accusing me of being unstable. This wasn't just about money or hurt feelings anymore. This was a coordinated attack. I needed help, real help. I couldn't fight this alone. I spent Christmas Day in that hotel room making phone calls. The first was to a private investigator I found through a legal referral service. Her name was Helen Crawford. She had good reviews and specialized in family law cases. She answered even though it was Christmas, which I took as a good sign. I need someone to look into my family. I think something's going on, and I need to know what. What kind of something? I told her everything. The seat at the table. The will. Sharon moving into the guest house. The coordinated text messages. The call to my employer. By the time I finished, she was taking notes. How long has Sharon been in the picture? According to my brother, she visits every week, but I'd never heard of her until yesterday. And your parents are how old? Mom's 67, Dad's 71. Any signs of cognitive decline? Memory issues? Not that I've noticed, but I haven't been around much lately. Helen was quiet for a moment. This sounds like a case I worked last year. Elder fraud. Someone befriends elderly people, insinuates themselves into the family, and then manipulates estate planning to their benefit. It's more common than you'd think. You think Sharon's scamming my parents? I think it's worth looking into. Give me a few days. I'll do a background check on Sharon Miller, see if there's anything unusual in her history. I'll also look into your family's finances if you can get me access. I can get you the shared documents, passwords, whatever you need. Good. And Jacqueline? Don't engage with your family until I have more information. Don't respond to texts. Don't take calls. Let them think you've gone silent. It'll make them nervous. Nervous people make mistakes. Okay, I'll be in touch. The next call was to a lawyer. I found one through the same service. Attorney Michael Foster, real estate and estate planning specialist. He could see me the day after Christmas. I went back to work on Tuesday like Mr. Daniels had asked. Met with HR first thing. The woman I spoke with, Brenda, was kind but professional. Your mother sounded genuinely concerned. She said you'd been under a lot of stress and that she was worried about your judgment. This is harassment. She's retaliating because I stopped giving her money. Can you prove that? I showed her my phone, the text messages, the timeline, the call from HR on Christmas morning after I'd left their house on Christmas Eve. Brenda's expression hardened. This is definitely harassment. You might want to consider a restraining order. I'm working on it. I've hired a lawyer and a private investigator. Good. Document everything. Every call, every text, every interaction. If this escalates, you'll need a paper trail. I went to my desk after that and tried to focus on work. But my mind kept drifting back to my family, to Sharon sitting in my seat, to Mom's handwriting in the margins of the will, has chosen career over connection. My phone buzzed. Another text from Courtney. Mom's in the hospital because of stress you caused. Hope you're happy. I opened Facebook on my computer and checked Mom's profile. She'd posted 2 hours ago. A photo of her and Sharon at a restaurant. Big smiles. Caption: blessed to have such wonderful friends. No mention of being in the hospital. I screenshot it and added it to the folder I was building. Evidence of their lies. Bradley texted next. You're dead to us. Don't ever come back. Fine by me, I typed. Then deleted it. Helen had said not to engage. So I didn't respond. The days crawled by. Work was a welcome distraction. I threw myself into a big project, analyzing market trends for a potential merger. Numbers and data didn't lie. They didn't manipulate. They just were. It was comforting. On Friday, 5 days after Christmas, Helen called. You need to sit down for this. I'm sitting. Sharon Miller isn't just a neighbor. She's a real estate agent, and not a very ethical one. She's been sued twice in the past 3 years. Once for misrepresenting property values to elderly sellers. Once for undisclosed conflicts of interest in a family estate sale. Oh my God. It gets worse. I found documents showing that your parents signed a purchase agreement for their house back on December 12th. The buyer is a development company called Riverside Properties. The sale price is $500,000. That house is worth at least $750,000. I looked at comps last year. I know. I had an independent appraiser look at it. His estimate is $760,000. Minimum. Your parents are selling for $260,000 less than market value. Why would they do that? Because Sharon's the listing agent. She gets a 10% commission, $50,000. And according to the contract terms, your parents can stay in the house rent-free for 2 years before moving to an assisted living facility that Sharon just happens to recommend. They're being scammed. Completely. And there's more. I found emails between Sharon and your siblings. They've been coordinating this for months. Your brother and sister both signed off on the sale. They're each getting a cut. How much? After the sale closes, after Sharon takes her commission, after various fees, there'll be about $300,000 left. Bradley gets $150,000. Courtney gets $150,000. Your parents get nothing except 2 years of free rent and then a spot in assisted living. What about me? You were cut out specifically so you couldn't interfere. Sharon knew that if you found out about the undervalued sale, you'd fight it. So they removed you from the will, removed you from family decisions, and tried to paint you as unstable so no one would believe you if you spoke up. I felt sick. Can we stop this? Yes. The sale hasn't closed yet, and there's evidence of fraud. I'm sending all of this to your lawyer. You need to file immediately. I'm calling him now. Attorney Michael Foster reviewed Helen's findings and moved fast. By Monday, we had filed a police report for elder fraud and a petition to halt the sale of the house. We also filed an emergency motion to freeze any changes to my parents' estate planning pending investigation, but I wanted to confront them myself. Michael advised against it. Helen advised against it. Everyone told me to let the legal system handle it. I went anyway. I drove to my parents' house on a Tuesday afternoon. I didn't call ahead. I just showed up with a folder full of documents and evidence. When I knocked, Sharon answered the door. She looked surprised, then worried. Jacqueline, hi. Your parents didn't mention you were coming. They didn't know. I need to talk to all of you. Now. I walked past her into the living room. Mom and Dad were sitting on the couch watching TV. They both jumped when they saw me. Jacqueline, Mom said. Her voice had that shaky quality. We didn't expect you. I know. We need to talk. About the house. About Sharon. About the fraud. Sharon came up behind me. I don't know what you're talking about. I turned to face her. The real appraisal puts this house at $760,000. You're selling it for $500,000. That's $260,000 in theft. That's not true, Sharon said quickly. I got multiple appraisals. $500,000 is fair market value. I pulled out the documents and spread them on the coffee table. Here's an independent appraisal from a certified appraiser with no connection to you or your company. $760,000. Here are comparable sales in this neighborhood from the past 6 months, all between $700,000 and $800,000. Here's your purchase agreement with Riverside Properties. $500,000. And here's your commission breakdown. $50,000. Mom was staring at the papers. Richard, look at this. Dad picked up the independent appraisal. His hands shook slightly. $760,000? That's not accurate, Sharon insisted. Those comps don't account for the condition of the house. The roof needs work. The plumbing is old. I had the house inspected last year when you mentioned maybe downsizing, I said to my parents. Remember? I paid for it. The inspector said everything was in good condition. The roof has at least 15 years left. The plumbing was updated in 2010. I have that report too. I pulled it out. Dad took it. Read through it slowly. His face went from confused to angry. Sharon, is this true? Did you lie about the house value? Before Sharon could answer, I heard a car door slam. Bradley and Courtney walked in. Sharon must have texted them. "What's going on?" Bradley demanded. "I'm showing Mom and Dad the evidence that Sharon's been defrauding them." "You're insane," Courtney spat. "Sharon has been nothing but helpful." "Helpful?" I turned to her. "She's stealing over $200,000 from Mom and Dad, and you two are in on it. I have the emails." "What emails?" Mom asked. I pulled out printed copies. Emails between Sharon and Bradley, Sharon and Courtney, all discussing how to get me out of the picture so the sale could go through smoothly. How to make sure Mom and Dad didn't get a second opinion on the house value. How to divide the money after the sale closed. Bradley's face went white. "Where did you get those?" "A private investigator." Along with Sharon's history of elder fraud, she's been sued twice before for doing exactly this to other families. "That's a lie," Sharon said. "Those lawsuits were dropped. They were settled out of court because you paid the victims to go away. But I have the court records, and I've filed a police report. The fraud division is investigating." The room went silent. Mom looked at Sharon with something between betrayal and confusion. "Sharon, tell me this isn't true." Sharon tried to smile. "It's a misunderstanding. Jacqueline is upset because she wasn't included in the family discussions. She's making up stories." "I'm not making up the appraisal that shows you undervalued the house by $250,000. I'm not making up the emails where you and my siblings plan to split the money. I'm not making up your history of targeting elderly homeowners." Dad stood up. He was shaking with anger. "Get out of my house." For a second, I thought he was talking to me. Then I realized he was looking at Sharon. "Richard, please," Sharon started. "Get out. Now." Sharon grabbed her purse and headed for the door. But before she left, she turned to Bradley and Courtney. "You two were happy to go along with this when it meant money in your pockets. Don't act innocent now." Then she was gone. The door slammed behind her. Mom was crying. "You two knew about this?" She looked at Bradley and Courtney. "You were going to steal from us?" "It wasn't like that," Bradley said weakly. "Sharon said the money would go to your care, to make sure you had enough for assisted living." "We don't need assisted living," Dad said. "We're not selling the house, and we're certainly not selling it for half what it's worth." Courtney tried next. "We were trying to help, to make sure you were taken care of." "By cutting me out of the will?" I asked. "By giving my seat at the table to the woman who was scamming you? By calling my employer and telling them I was unstable?" Courtney didn't have an answer for that. Neither did Bradley. Mom looked at me. "How much did we almost lose?" $260,000 minimum. Probably more once all of Sharon's fees and kickbacks came out. Dad sat down heavily. "We trusted her. She seemed so nice." "That's how it works," I said quietly. "They target people who are trusting, who are lonely, who want to believe someone cares." Mom reached for my hand. "I'm so sorry, Jacqueline, for everything, for the seat at Christmas, for the things we said, for believing them instead of you." I pulled my hand away gently. "I need time. This isn't something I can just forgive right now." "I understand." I looked at Bradley and Courtney. "My lawyer will be in touch. You participated in a fraud scheme. There will be consequences." "We'll pay back whatever we owe," Bradley said. "You owe $35,000 in loans and support I gave you. You owe Mom and Dad an apology. You owe me an explanation for why you tried to destroy my life. We'll start with the money." The next 2 weeks were a blur of lawyers and police interviews and family drama. Sharon was arrested and charged with elder fraud, conspiracy, and theft by deception. The sale of the house was canceled. The developer backed out immediately when they learned about the criminal investigation. Bradley and Courtney hired a lawyer. They tried to claim they didn't know Sharon was defrauding anyone, that they thought the house was really only worth $500,000. But Helen had emails that proved otherwise. Messages where Sharon explicitly told them the house was undervalued and that they needed to keep me away so I wouldn't interfere. My lawyer, Michael Foster, offered them a deal. Pay back everything they owed me, sign sworn statements admitting their role in the scheme, apologize publicly, and he wouldn't recommend criminal charges. They took the deal. On a cold afternoon in mid-January, I met them at Michael's office. The room was small and sterile. A conference table, 6 chairs, a window overlooking a parking lot. Bradley looked terrible. He'd lost weight. Dark circles under his eyes. Courtney looked angry, which was her default setting, but there was fear underneath it. Let's get this over with, Michael said. He slid papers across the table. This is an acknowledgement of debt, $35,000 total, $10,000 from Bradley for the business loan, $15,000 from Courtney for various support payments over 2 years, $10,000 combined for the mortgage assistance that should have been going to your parents but was being siphoned to Sharon's plan. I didn't know about that last part, I said. We discovered it in the investigation, Michael explained. Sharon was billing your parents for various services. Grocery shopping, house maintenance, companionship. Your mortgage payments were going into an account that Sharon controlled. She claimed it was for their care. Really, it was her personal slush fund. That's another charge against her, Helen added from the corner. She'd come for this meeting. We wanted all the players present. Bradley signed first. His hand shook. Then Courtney. They slid the papers back. Payment plan? Courtney asked. $5,000 down today. The rest over 12 months. No interest if you pay on time. If you miss a payment, I sue immediately. They both nodded. Next, the statement. Michael pulled out another document. This is a sworn affidavit acknowledging your participation in Sharon Miller's fraud scheme. It details the emails, the meetings, the plan to exclude Jacqueline from family decisions. You'll sign it in front of a notary. If this ever goes to trial, this statement can be used as evidence. Will we go to jail? Bradley asked. Michael looked at me. That's up to Jacqueline. She's the victim here. If she wants to press charges, the district attorney will likely follow her lead. I don't want you in jail, I said slowly. I want you to understand what you did. To me, to Mom and Dad, to yourselves. You destroyed this family for money you never even got. We're sorry, Courtney said. She didn't sound sorry. She sounded resentful. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. She flinched. Bradley spoke up. For what it's worth, I really did think we were helping Mom and Dad. Sharon made it sound like they needed the money, like they were struggling. She said you weren't around enough to know how bad it was. That's exactly what I said, I replied. That's why she targeted all of you. She found your weak spots, your jealousy, your insecurity, your need to feel important, and she exploited it. They both signed the statement. Last thing, the apology. Michael pulled out a sheet of paper with typed text. This is a public statement you'll both post to your social media accounts. It explains that you participated in a fraud against your parents, that you wrongly accused Jacqueline of being unstable, and that you apologize for the damage you caused. People will see this, Courtney protested. That's the point. You tried to destroy Jacqueline's reputation. Now you're repairing it. They signed, they posted, and then they left. Helen stayed behind. How do you feel? Tired? Angry? Relieved? I don't know. You did the right thing. Not just for you. For your parents. If you hadn't figured this out, they'd have lost everything. I know, but it doesn't feel good. It just feels sad. That's because you're a good person who was betrayed by people you loved. It's supposed to feel sad. Michael checked his watch. One more thing. Your parents' lawyer contacted me. They've updated their estate planning. You're reinstated. Bradley and Courtney are still beneficiaries, but everything's split evenly now. And there's a clause that if anyone contests the will or tries to manipulate your parents again, they forfeit their share entirely. Good. Sharon's trial is set for April. You'll probably have to testify. I'm ready. I drove home that evening feeling hollowed out. Empty. I'd won. The house was saved. Sharon was facing criminal charges. My siblings had been held accountable. Mom and Dad knew the truth, but victory felt like ashes in my mouth. My phone rang. Mom. I almost didn't answer. Then I did. Jacqueline? Her voice was small. Hi, Mom. Your father and I want to see you, to talk, really talk, not on the phone, in person. I don't know if I'm ready. I understand, but whenever you are, we'll be here. We're not going anywhere. I'll think about it. That's all we can ask. I hung up and sat in my car in the parking garage under my apartment building. The engine ticked as it cooled. Somewhere above me, people were living their lives, making dinner, watching TV, calling their families and actually enjoying it. I wanted that, but I didn't know how to get there from here. February arrived with freezing rain and gray skies. Sharon's trial was postponed to June. The prosecutor wanted more time to build the case. Apparently, there were 3 other families who'd come forward claiming Sharon had done similar things to them. It was becoming a major fraud case. Bradley made his first payment, $5,000. On time. He texted after. I know this doesn't fix anything, but I'm trying. I didn't respond. Courtney made her payment too. No text, just a bank transfer, which was fine. I didn't want to hear from her anyway. Mom called once a week, just to check in, just to say hi. I answered about half the time. The conversations were awkward, stilted. We talked about weather and work and anything except Christmas Eve. In March, Dad had a health scare, chest pains. Mom called me from the emergency room, crying. He's okay. They think it was anxiety. But I'm scared. I'm so scared. I'll be there tomorrow. I drove up the next day, walked into that house for the first time since the confrontation. It looked the same, smelled the same, but it felt different. Smaller, maybe? Or maybe I was just seeing it differently. Dad was in his recliner, looking embarrassed. It was just stress. I'm fine. You need to take it easy. I know. Doctor said the same thing. Mom made coffee. We sat at the kitchen table. The table where I'd been told to sit on Christmas Eve while Sharon took my place. It didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. Maybe because I was different now. Harder. More guarded. We owe you everything, Dad said. If you hadn't figured out what Sharon was doing, but I did, and you're safe. That's what matters. Can you forgive us? Mom asked. Her eyes were red from crying. For believing her instead of you? For pushing you away? I'm working on it, but forgiveness takes time. Trust takes longer. We understand. I stayed for lunch, helped Dad with some paperwork, fixed a leaky faucet in the bathroom. Normal things, safe things. We didn't talk about Bradley or Courtney or Sharon or Christmas. We talked about the weather and the garden and whether the roof really did need repairs like Sharon had claimed. It didn't. Before I left, Mom hugged me. A real hug. Not the obligatory side hug she'd been giving me for years. I told her I loved her. She said it back. I cried the whole drive home. In April, I got a letter from Bradley. Handwritten. 3 pages. He wrote about how sorry he was. How Sharon had convinced him that I looked down on the family. That I thought I was better because I had money. That I only helped out of guilt or obligation, not love. He wrote about how desperate he'd been for money. How his business had failed. How he felt like a failure as a man and a father. He wrote that Sharon had offered him a way out. A way to feel like he was providing for his family without having to ask his little sister for help. He wrote, I know you probably hate me. I hate myself. I don't know how to fix this, but I'm trying to be better. For my son, for my wife, for myself. You don't owe me forgiveness, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I read it twice. Then I put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'd respond. But not yet. Courtney never apologized. Not really. Her social media post had been the bare minimum. 3 sentences. Clinical. Required. She unfriended me on Facebook. Blocked me on Instagram. Which was fine. I didn't need her in my life anyway. By May, I'd settled into a new normal. Work was good. I'd gotten a promotion, actually. Senior analyst. More money, more responsibility. I was dating someone I'd met through friends, a teacher named Ryan. He was kind and funny and had no interest in my money. We took things slow. I saw my parents once a month. Short visits, careful conversations. We were rebuilding, slowly. It might take years. It might never be what it was, but it was something. Sharon's trial started in early June. I testified on the second day, walked through everything. The Christmas Eve dinner, the discovery of the will, the undervalued house, the emails, the fraud. Sharon's lawyer tried to make me look vindictive. Tried to suggest I was motivated by greed, not justice. The prosecutor shut that down fast. Miss Thompson had been supporting her family financially for years. She received nothing in return. When she discovered fraud, she reported it. That's not greed, that's integrity. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty, on all counts. Sharon was sentenced to 3 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution to all her victims. My parents would get back the money she'd stolen through her fake billing scheme, about $20,000. Mom called me after the sentencing. It's over. She's going to prison. Good. Thank you. For fighting for us. For not giving up. You're my parents. What else would I do? Some people would have walked away. I almost did. But you didn't. No, I didn't. It's been 9 months since that Christmas Eve. 9 months since I drove 6 hours through snow to have dinner with my family and ended up leaving before the meal even started. 9 months since I sat in my car and canceled every automatic payment, every streaming service, every bit of financial support I'd been providing. Sometimes people ask me if I regret it, if I wish I'd just sat in the kitchen and kept my mouth shut and maintained the peace. And the answer is no. Not even a little bit. What happened after I left that night set off a chain reaction that exposed fraud, protected my parents from losing everything, and forced my family to confront the truth about how they'd been treating me. If I'd stayed, if I'd swallowed my hurt and played nice, Sharon would have succeeded. My parents would be homeless in 2 years. Bradley and Courtney would have gotten away with betraying us all. And I would still be the family ATM, valued for my wallet and nothing else. I talk to my parents regularly now. We're rebuilding trust. It's slow. There are still moments where old patterns try to resurface. Where mom suggests I help pay for something, or dad mentions how Courtney's struggling financially and maybe I could. But I shut it down gently but firmly. I'm not the family bank anymore. I'm their daughter. And I'm only willing to show up in that role if I'm treated like I matter. Bradley and I are cordial. He finished his payment plan 2 months early. Sent me a text saying thank you and sorry, and he hoped someday we could be real siblings again. I told him maybe, someday, when I'm ready. He's in therapy now, working on himself. Good for him. Courtney and I don't speak. I've made peace with that. Not every relationship can be saved. Not every person is capable of real change or real apology. She's still angry that I exposed the truth, still believes she was justified in everything she did. I've stopped caring what she thinks. Last week was Thanksgiving. I didn't go home. I hosted dinner at my apartment instead. Invited my parents. Ryan came too. My friend Lisa and her husband. A couple of coworkers. We made turkey and stuffing and pumpkin pie. We laughed. We talked. It was warm and comfortable and genuine. Mom helped with the dishes afterward. She looked around my apartment and said, "You've built a good life here. I'm proud of you." Thanks, Mom. I'm sorry it took almost losing you for me to see it. I'm just glad you see it now. She hugged me. And this time it didn't feel complicated. It just felt like a mother hugging her daughter. Christmas is coming up again. A year since everything fell apart. My parents invited me to come home for Christmas Eve. I told them I'd think about it. I probably will go, but on my terms. I'll drive up Christmas morning instead of the night before. I'll stay for a few hours. I'll leave when I'm ready. And if there's any sign of the old patterns, any hint that I'm being taken for granted or treated as less than, I'll walk out again. Because I know now that I can. That's the real gift from all of this. Not the money I stopped spending, not the justice Sharon faced, not even the rebuilt relationship with my parents. The real gift is knowing that I have the power to choose myself, to set boundaries, to walk away from situations that hurt me, to demand respect and mean it. I spent 32 years trying to earn a place at my family's table, trying to prove I was worthy of their love and attention, sending money and gifts and support and never asking for anything in return except basic recognition that I mattered. It took losing my seat at that table to realize I was sitting at the wrong table all along. Now I'm building my own table, and everyone who sits there will be there because they value me. Not my wallet, not my usefulness, just me, Jacqueline. The woman who drove 6 hours through a snowstorm for people who didn't appreciate her until she stopped showing up. I'm done being overlooked. I'm done being taken for granted. I'm done sacrificing my peace for people who wouldn't sacrifice anything for me. And you know what? I've never been happier. If you're in a similar situation, if you're the person who always gives and never receives, if you're the one who's expected to show up and shut up and be grateful for scraps of attention, I want you to know something. You deserve better. You deserve a seat at the table, not in the kitchen, not in the corner, at the table. And if they won't give it to you, build your own table. It's scary. It's hard. You'll lose people, but you'll also find yourself, and that's worth everything. So here's my question for all of you. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between keeping the peace and respecting yourself? What did you do? How did it turn out? Drop your stories in the comments. I read every single one, and I promise you're not alone in this. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think about your own boundaries and relationships, do me a favor, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more honest conversations about family, boundaries, and choosing yourself. Because we're building a community here of people who refuse to be overlooked anymore. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting each other in the comments. You all inspire me every day to keep standing up for myself and to keep sharing these truths. I hope your holidays are filled with people who value you, who see you, who save you a seat at the table because they genuinely want you there. And if they don't, I hope you have the courage to build your own table. You deserve it. Take care of yourselves, set those boundaries, choose yourself, and I'll see you in the next story.